Peace to everybody. This story is about Taj Jackson seeking $777,000 to produce doc series about his uncle Michael. I want to get the truth out there, and as you can see here in the picture, is Taj Jackson along with Michael Jackson's brothers that was taken at the Four Seasons Hotel in Los Angeles, February 26, 2019. I'm a fighter, especially when I know I'm right, says Taj Jackson. The 45-year-old son of former Jackson 5 member Tito Jackson is in the process of transitioning from musical artist to filmmaker in the wake of Leaving Neverland, the HBO documentary in which Wade Robson and James Safechuck allege that they were sexually abused as children by Michael Jackson shortly before the 4 hour plus film's premiere in early March. Taj, his father, and uncle Jackie and Marlon Jackson took to the media to defend Michael against the documentary's claim. So Taj Jackson is fighting for it, and he wants to see proof of what Wade Robson and James Safechuck allegedly said about Michael Jackson, and we all know that it's not true because Michael Jackson never did anything with these two liars. It was just they were just doing it for the money. And Tito Jackson is in the process of transitioning from musical artist to filmmaker, which is good on his parts. So now he can see what is the truth and what's not the truth, as long as he's in the process of filmmaking. And his uncles Jackie and Marlon Jackson, they took to the media to defend against the documentary's claim. I knew I had to be someone out in front fighting for my uncle, says Jaj, who has since taken the additional step of creating a GoFundMe account to finance his own Jackson documentary series. He has raised more than $114,000 of his $777,000 goal so far. Taj says it's up to him and the Jackson family to protect Michael's legacy, especially because the Leaving Neverland director Dan Reed hadn't ever approached them or Jackson's estate to present their side. So Taj Jackson has a GoFundMe account that he raised $114,000 so far out of the $777,000, and he needs a lot more to get this going because the Leaving Neverland Dan Reed has lied, and it was all on one. It was a one-sided story. There was no two sides to the story at all. So and once Taj Jackson gets this going in that, or keep it going in that, then the more the truth will come out that Michael Jackson never touched Wade Robson and James Safechuck because those two have lied their butts off and smiling when I had did a little research on them because they knew they was lying. Taj, who says he took part in more than 200 sleepovers at Jackson's Neverland Ranch and never saw or even suspected any sexual misconduct, dismisses Robson, whom he knew during their childhood, and Safechuck's allegations in the film claiming the two men are interested only in making money. Taj, who says he was sexually abused by a relative when he was a child, adds that the tone of the documentary infuriated him. There should not have been 45 minutes of them gloating about Michael and Leaving Neverland. That's not how you feel when you're abused. There's no admiration. Taj, who is not a direct beneficiary of Michael Jackson's estate, spoke to Billboard in defense of his late uncle. So, Taj Jackson had took part in 200 sleepovers. There was nothing inappropriate that at all with the children that came to visit there at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. There was nothing. There was nothing at all. What James Safechuck and Wade Robson did was totally disgusting and degrading because they were doing everything they can to destroy Michael Jackson's legacy. And they could try all they want, but the truth is going to come out sooner or later. And when it does, those two are going to feel like a fool for what they have done. Michael was probably the best person that I will ever meet. He had a healing factor to him and the biggest heart and soul. When you were around him, nothing else mattered in the world. All your troubles and all of your pain were gone. Even when my mom passed away, it felt like I was going to be okay because of him. I know some people will never believe that, and that's their right. But I could tell you, the people that were around him believe it. Anyone from Elizabeth Taylor, or I'm sorry, everyone from Elizabeth Taylor to Diana Ross, they knew his heart. I find it very interesting that the ones that have never met him have the most negative things to say. Yeah, so Michael Jackson has like some kind of thing in him that made the children feel safe, and even when they're in pain, he always Michael Jackson has always done something good for the children. There was never anything wrong or anything. And it was everyone from Elizabeth Taylor to Diana Ross, and they knew his heart. And so that's what they did. I knew there was going to be something for the 10th anniversary of his death because the media can't help it. It's too good of a year to pass up doing something negative about Michael Jackson, although I never thought in my wildest dreams it would be leaving Neverland, not to mention that a one sided documentary was going to be accepted as truth. I thought people would at least research. The second half for me was very hard to watch. There's no law to protect my uncle at all. There's no law against defaming, slandering, or liberating the dead. Wade and James' allegations in leaving Neverland also contradict their own deportations under oath and in court, knowing how giving my uncle was. I don't understand how they could turn on him when he's no longer here. It's evil. Yeah, so James Safechuck and Wade Robson, those two are the evilest men ever. They turned on him after they have been so good to him, or after Michael Jackson has been good to them. And all of a sudden they just turn around and say, oh, Michael did this, Michael did that. Where is the proof? I want to see the proof. Wade Robson, James Safechuck, where is the proof? I want to see paperwork on that you say that Michael Jackson allegedly sexually abused you, and if you don't have it, then you are definitely liars for sure. I want to see the proof on you. If, even though, and Taj Jackson, yeah, he is upset because of those two were lying on him left and right. And they had no business lying on Michael Jackson. Nope. Which is why what he's doing now is so frustrating. He idolized my uncle in terms of his music. His whole dance career was very calculated. He was a go-getter. Yeah, Michael Jackson, he sure was a go-getter. He would do anything. Donate to charities, help children when they were in pain or if they were not feeling well. That's how Michael was. He didn't even think about anything else. And with Wade Robson and James Safechuck lying on him, those two are the evilest men of all with their lies. Not at all. I don't even know what I would do. I don't think he would be able to face me. I was the one that got him into Michael's 2009 memorial with his family. That's why I feel betrayed. I thanked him right after he testified in 2005. I told him that not many people have come out publicly to support my uncle, and it meant a lot that he did. He responded, "No problem, it's the least I can do." So in 2005, when Michael Jackson was accused of these sexual allegations and that, they came out and said, "Oh, he never did anything to them." But then when you turn around and say, "Oh, well, he did this and he did that," what the heck is going on? I mean, these two, Wade Safe or Wade Robson and James Safechuck, those two need to be locked up for real. And Taj Jackson, Paris's uncle, he he feels betrayed what those two men did to him. No, but I know people who do. His problem is that he can't keep his story straight. They just have a platform now and they have a movement that they're utilizing. A movement where we believe the victims no matter what. I can't go with that. I agree with listening to everyone, but I don't blindly believe anyone because that's a dangerous place to be. So, yeah, Taj Jackson, he don't believe anything. And I agree with Taj Jackson because I'm on his side. Those two men, they were not getting their stories straight. They were telling lies left and right from who knows what to who knows what. And Taj Jackson can't trust anybody, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't trust anybody either. It's kind of our own fault. We have always ignored the Jackson news. We didn't want to give it any attention, so for over 20 years, these rumors have been circulating and people took them as fact. Now we're facing the repercussions of that. Those same rumors are what people are using against us right now. I wanted to fight right away. I wanted to fight in 2013 when Wade first started rearing his head on TV because I know him very well. I wanted to be more aggressive with it, but I was told by family members and friends to leave it alone because most of the public did not believe him at that time. So I actually took my foot off the pedal and I thought he would go away. Now here we are here today. So Taj Jackson is saying that it's kind of their fault because it never got attention for over 20 years. And, and when Wade first started rearing his head on TV, of course, we all know Wade Robson and James Safechuck are both compulsive liars. And if you hook up a lie detector test to them, they won't pass it at all. They'll just lie through the whole thing. And now look where it got them. He, I mean, Taj Jackson couldn't do anything when he took his foot off the pedal and he thought it would go away, but now they're stuck with the repercussions of what happened. No, it was just a matter of us wanting to do it. The truth is that some of our family doesn't have the best relationship with the estate. The only family members who are beneficiaries of Michael's will are Jackson family, Matt Truck, Catherine Jackson, and Michael's three children, Prince Paris and Blanket. I will always speak out for my uncle, even though to some my uncle was larger than life. It doesn't mean he wasn't a human being. I know Michael. the way you know your siblings or your parents. I know the truth. You would be doing the same thing if someone was accusing your sister or brother of something that you knew deep down inside your heart wasn't true. That's how strongly I feel about it. I have zero doubts about my uncle's innocence. So Taj Jackson has zero doubts about his uncle's innocence, and the estate, they are not believing Wade Robson and James Safechuck either. They're not. So all the beneficiaries went to the Jackson family, even Michael Jackson's children. And so they, and with Taj Jackson, he knows deep down in his heart that it was not true. So, and he has zero doubts about his uncle's innocence. Very important, we had no heads up for it at all. Dan Reed didn't want anything to conflict with his narrative. If it didn't fit in there, then he left it out. The more you dig on the other side, the more you realize how many holes Leaving Neverland has. So they didn't, Dan Reed, who did Leaving Neverland, didn't want anything to conflict with his narrative. But somewhere along the way, it had to be conflicted because there was no heads up about it. And the more you realize how many holes Leaving Neverland has, and it's just bits here and there that are missing. And James Safechuck and Wade Robson, they're just not telling the truth at all. They're just lying about, and they're still lying today, I bet you. This isn't our first rodeo. In 2004, we came out with an album called Identity. And when all this stuff hit with Michael's 2005 trial, there were certain countries that wouldn't play his music. The whole country of Germany was off limits for us. We couldn't play or even get our songs played, so this is not new to us. At the same time, I think it's important to be out there because the fans need it. They need that love and support, and we need it too. Those same German stations ended up playing the Jacksons, Janet and Michael afterward. These are knee-jerk reactions, and we can't let that stop us. So there are certain countries like Germany. They're not playing his music, and there's an album called Identity. I don't know anything about that album at all, so I never seen it in my life. Um, the whole country of Germany was off limits to them, and they really want their music played over there. But Germany's saying, no, we don't want it. And and then of course Janet and Michael afterward, they were knee jerkers of what, and they couldn't let it stop them. You can't mute Michael Jackson. His fan base is probably one of the most well versed in the world. They've been called every name under the sun, from conspiracy theorists to fanatics. They hit you with facts. They know court documents, interviews, what outfit he wore for the happy birthday message to Wade. They know everything. They also know truth. When you hear about an episode of The Simpsons that featured Michael Jackson's voice being pulled without my uncle even being convicted of anything, it's a dangerous slope. So they try to mute Michael Jackson. In other words, they want to they want to get his music banned from every radio station, which it is doing now. And that I think it's really ridiculous for what they have done. I don't care what you do with R. Kelly, but you cannot mute Michael Jackson. And they had an episode of The Simpsons that featured Michael Jackson's voice that got pulled off the TV as well. And his fan base is probably one of the most well versed in the world, so they deserve to hear Michael Jackson's music. it's hard because Michael's music was him. I think that's why it resonates with people. He channeled himself through his music. You can separate it, but at the same time, my uncle used to say, lies run sprints, but the truth runs marathons. You know, I feel like whether it's 2 years, 5 years, or 100 years down the line, the truth will be out there about my uncle being innocent. Yeah, so it don't matter if you're 2 years, 100 years, whatever years, the truth is gonna come out, and when it do, people are gonna feel like, I don't know, probably ridiculous or whatever, and they're gonna feel stupid after when they think, oh, Michael Jackson never, and they're going to turn around and say, oh, Michael Jackson never did this. Those two men were lying. Yes, they were lying. Hello? Wake the hell up. Michael was angry in his hotel room when we got there. He was like, I'm not going to let them do this to me. He was our strength and we were his strength. They took the one thing he loved on earth, which was helping people, especially helping kids, and made it perverted. That was my uncle's kryptonite, and so he was very, very upset and angry. We would tell him to focus on the concert. He got his strength from the fans. He was going through a lot. He was deteriorating from week to week, literally from show to show. He would get on stage and the audience would give him that energy. But then he would get off stage and almost collapse from all the pressure and everything that was happening. It was a fight that I don't like to remember. So Taj don't like to remember that fight, but with the people that are saying that he did this and that, it was Michael Jackson's weakness. It was a kryptonite to him. And it was deteriorating his life from week after week. And I could only imagine him, I could imagine him losing sleep over this mess. And he would be okay on stage and then when people give him the energy, but when he got off the stage, he felt like he wanted to collapse because of all these lies that were coming out about him, and couldn't he just couldn't take it. He was angry, he was upset, and he wanted it to stop, but all these people just kept pouring in and say, oh well, he no, they don't know nothing. They don't know the truth. That's why they believe the lies that the mainstream media puts out there. And if you want to keep believing the mainstream media, go right ahead, because you're going to feel stupid after that. I lived there for a year because I knew my uncle needed me every day after court. I basically make him forget all the hell that had gone through that day and literally get his mind back to the point where he might crack a smile. Then it was like the movie Groundhog Day. We would repeat it each day over and over. We would watch The Three Stooges. We would talk about filmmaking, maybe watch a movie and talk about that. We talked a lot about the future. That's what we did during the whole trial. So yeah, so during the whole trial, that Taj and Michael, they were just talking about a lot of stuff to get his mind off the trial, because they don't want to think about it. And so it was like that movie Groundhog Day. They were living life over and over again to so they wouldn't think about it at all. And it was just hopefully, and Taj was hoping that Michael would crack a smile or so, but I guess Michael didn't because of him feeling upset and angry. And of course, they watched the Three Stooges together, and they would talk about the filmmaking. Was he ever suicidal? No, no, no. His kids were everything to him. He was born to be a father. He really was. That was the thing that lit up his life. I'm giving myself too much credit. I was there to reset him. but his kids were his motivation and his kids were his everything. I spent so much time with them as well, and that's why we have such a great relationship. If he didn't have his kids, I think it would have been so much worse. So Michael always wanted to be a father, and he's got three children that are grown. But if he didn't have his kids, it would have been worse. But Michael Jackson was born to be a father, that because that's what he wanted, and his kids were everything, and plus his motivation to him. No, I don't. It's not me being naive. It's me knowing who he is. My uncle was the type that would see a kid suffering on the news and he would be on the phone anonymously donating money to the cause. My uncle was the type of person that when Ryan White's school blocked him from returning to class because he had AIDS, Michael took him to Neverland so he could feel welcomed, normal, and loved. White, who died at the age of 18 in 1990, was a hemophiliac who contracted the virus via a blood treatment. My uncle took care of Dave after he suffered extensive burns when his father poured gasoline over him and set him on fire. That was Michael Jackson. So, the one kid, um, had contracted AIDS through blood treatment. And it's really sad because these doctors or whatever, they do, some of them will check to see if it's HIV positive and some won't. And I guess unfortunately the doctor did not check it or whoever you send it to, but Ryan White had died of AIDS at the age of 18 in 1990, and it's really sad. And Dave, Michael Jackson helped him after his father poured gasoline over him and set him on fire. I mean, Michael Jackson is just the kind of person to help anybody. It doesn't matter who you are, it's just how he is. Even though he never got that chance to be a kid when he was growing up because his father pushed him right into doing music and that. Macaulay Culkin said it best. Michael was never good at explaining himself. It's one of the hardest things I watched because I know what my uncle meant. It's so frustrating to me because it's harmless. I would participate in these fun sleepovers or watch movies like The Exorcist on his bed with my brothers and stuff like that. The problem with Michael is that he always made it sound worse than it was. Even at Havenhurst, there was no couch, so we would chill and watch movies on his bed. I think what ends up happening is people hear the word bed and they think it's sexual. It's like share a bed, turn into sleep with children. It's not the case at all. So Macaulay Culkin has said it better than Michael could never explain himself. Excuse me for coughing. I have been sick. And they would watch movies together like The Exorcist. And as soon as people hear the word bed, they'll think of sexual things. Please excuse my coughing. I'm just not really feeling well. And they think that it's all sexual and it turned into sleep with children, but that's all a lie right there. If you go online, all of them have been challenged. Yeah, so if you go online, all of them have been challenged. and you would find things that are not true, even though even though those two men have lied on him. My uncle's mistake, and he regretted it later. So all these alleged victims, Jordy Chandler and Jason Francia, were given settlements, though, but that was a big mistake. Michael Jackson did, and because they even lied on him too. I don't want to repeat the graphic details, but I remember it very vividly. I remember sounds. I remember him in the bathroom. I remember the water faucet. I remember a lot of in terms of being traumatized in that way. And I knew it was wrong. The day after it happened, I told my mom right away. We never saw that relative again. It's weird because when that happens to you, it almost is like you ac- acquire a sense of right and wrong or evil and dark. I'm very sensitive to that stuff now. So Taj is very sensitive to a lot of stuff. He doesn't want to repeat the graphic details, and of course, we all know what those graphic details are. And there was a lot of turns of being traumatized. He told his mom that, and they never saw that relative again. So they was like, "No, we're leaving that relative alone. We don't want nothing to do with them." So the only thing Taj remembers is that he remembers sounds. He remember him in the bathroom and the water faucet. That was it. He wrote a letter to my mom and sent her an article. It said, Dee Dee, please read this article about child molestation and please read it to Taj. It brings out how even your own relatives can be molesters of children. Please read. My mom and Michael had a special relationship. She always confided in Michael because she always trusted his judgment. If my mom would have thought for one instant my uncle was this monster that they're pretending he is, she probably would have thrown him in jail. My mom didn't mess around. Whoa, okay. Okay, Taj's mom didn't mess around. And you know what? I don't blame him for saying that, but Dee Dee is his mom. Taj um wanted to hear the letter that Michael sent to his mother, and she was always confided in him because she knew she would trust him. Anything that happened, they would confide in Michael, and there was nothing ever going on. As soon as we heard it was a swimming accident, we knew she had been murdered. She was terrified of water and could not swim. Dolores D.D. Jackson drowned in the swimming pool of her then boyfriend, Don Bohanna, in 1994. 4 years later, Bohanna was found guilty of second-degree murder. He has maintained that he did not kill her. My uncle Michael was always there for us. I'll never forget. We played hide and go seek at the Havenhurst house with him, and that's how we dealt with the grief. He was amazing. He was the one who told us to finish our Brotherhood album because we had just started it. He said, "You have to finish this and you have to honor your mom. It was it's what she wanted." And he's right. That's exactly what she would have wanted. She was our biggest fan. Michael basically took us under his wing and made sure that we were okay. So, Dolores Dee Jackson, she drowned in a swimming pool, and it's because of her boyfriend who had killed her allegedly in 1994. So, and now he's trying to, now the boyfriend of Dee Dee was trying to say that he's innocent, but we don't know that part about him at all. So when I never heard anything about Bohanna until right now. Don Bohanna is the boyfriend that Dee Dee was seeing, and the only way Taj Jackson dealt with the grief was to have fun because he didn't want to think about it. And of course, he had an album, it was called Brotherhood. I never heard of it, so that's new to me too. And Michael told him, "You have to finish this and you have to honor your mom." So that's what he told Taj Jackson. "I'm not combating leaving Neverland. I'm doing a documentary about the Medea's relationship with my uncle and how they've reported a certain things as factual that were lies. I'm on I'm going to go back all the way to 1993 with the first allegation and uncover that along with the 2005 allegations. I'm obviously going to make it entertaining because I don't want people to fall asleep. But it's going to be about facts, court documents, depositions, and interviews. It's going to be about debunking what you heard and sharing what really happened. I want to get the truth out there, and I have to make a correction. It was about the media's relationship. Sorry about the wrong word. I thought it was media, but I corrected myself and caught media. So Taj is gonna redo this, and he said it's gonna be about facts, about court documents, depositions, and interviews, and he's gonna debunk everything of what people have heard so far. So once that is done, then the truth will come out. That and so this way they can get the people can get the real truth of what happened, what really happened. And so this way, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, they can be out of the way because those two are not going to stop until they get what they want, and that is the money from the Jackson estate. And there is no way the Jackson estate is going to give them money at all because they don't want nothing to do with those two. Yes, and that's why my documentary has to be out there. I don't want someone watching Leaving Neverland 100 years from now and thinking it's true. I want there to be a counter argument that debunks everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. I'm doing this for my uncle because he deserves it. He needs someone to stick up for him like he stuck up for us. So yeah, Taj Jackson is real serious about this, and when he said he means, and when he say he's debunking everything, he means everything from top to bottom, and and once that truth come out, that's it. There is no going back to the lies after because Leaving Neverland was a one-sided documentary. Where was the other side? Why haven't the other side got any didn't say anything because of Mr. Reed who did this made it all about James Safechuck and Wade Robson. That's who he made it about. Nobody else. There was no two sides of anything. It was just one sided. If I found one piece of evidence that was 100% indisputable, then yes, I'm all about justice. Integrity is everything for me. But here's the thing, what can I tell you is that in 10 years of multiple investigations, hundreds of documents, a trial, and a tip line that prosecutor Tom Sneeden kept open for people claiming to be victims of Michael Jackson for years. There's still nothing. So uh, the investigation was still open for wow a lot of years, and Tom Sneeden kept open for people claiming to be victims of Michael Jackson. Now, come on, why you gotta keep something like this open? There was nothing. Even if Taj Jackson is saying if there was one piece of evidence that was indisputable, then yes, he would get justice for it. But there was no evidence, no nothing, whatever. And you just cannot find no paperwork. Where is the police report? Where is the evidence? Where is the so-called sexual abuse allegations that are supposed to be written on paper? Where is that? It's nowhere around. That's where it's at. Because they know that James Safechuck and Wade Robson are lying their butts off. And of course, tell me what you think in the comments below. I am out.